Hey there, my friends. It's Bill McDonald, the reading and writing doctor here. And today we're going to talk about a scene from a play. Now, we're only going to look at one question, supposedly about one scene, about drawing a conclusion. If my thumb is your introduction of a scene, what you might call a paragraph, a portion, a section, a selection of a play. The middle fingers are the body of that scene, and my pinky is the conclusion. Then what we're wanting to be do is to draw a conclusion as a reader by the time we get to the end of the play. So if scene one is sort of like my sweater or my shirt, then my belt would be my transition to scene two, which could be my pants. And so what you're gonna have to teach your kids is sometimes instead of just having to draw a conclusion or inferring, having to read between the lines, they might have to say, let me read a little bit of the pants instead of just the shirt or the sweater so that I can maybe figure out what was happening in scene one and why, because all your students had to do to draw the conclusion was just read a couple of lines from scene two, the pants, after the belt that says scene two. So I'm here in my virtual living room because I want to show you something at the beginning of each scene, and sometimes in the middle, there are some things called brackets and some words, a sentence or two, and there's an opening bracket, some words, and a closing bracket. So I want you to help your kids think of those brackets as this. I'm going to opening bracket, stage, the words, direction, the closing bracket, action, because the characters in the play start speaking without quotation marks. Their mouths are moving, but they're not using quotation marks in plays. So once again, to get that down, the opening bracket, staging, the words, directions, who does what, where, and when, and why or how, and closing bracket, action. So let's take a look at the question in question. But before I do, I just want to remind you, if you don't already have a cool checklist, think of the checklist of your students as a meal, and the reading of the question and the sentence or section or stanza, the scene, the selection, the paragraph or the passage is very important. It's the appetizer, and making sure that you understand clearly what's being asked. Think of the meat and the vegetable as the underlining of those details in the question, and the labeling, the marking. So what we're going to do is make sure we understand we should underline. Now, if your kids would be asked to open their mouth softly when they're reading with a partner or solo for testing, then they would actually be able to act out the parts of the two characters in the play, the owner of the dog and the dog who's being called dog. So his name has a capital. The reason I'm putting a cap on is that you're a little bit taller, it seems, when you have a cap, and letters that are a little bit taller than the other letters of their kind like the word dog in lowercase, it's just common. But if I call him dog, capital, underline, capitals, proper nouns, because I'm calling him dog. So I want you to notice that a lot of the things that we'll be reading have to do with things that are in the P, the passage, or in the Q, in the question, in the P, a certain paragraph or portion, or the selection, the scene, the sentence. So if we could make sure we understand and label, we're going to have a lot less trouble handling questions like number 13 from 6th grade in Texas. It says, what can the reader, that's us, conclude, drawing a conclusion about owner? We call himself, he calls himself owner. There's no name. So if you're doing this with your class, whenever you're doing a play with your class, have two really brave individuals volunteer to act out the part of the owner and the dog. Because the question is asking about the dog through the owner's eyes. So let me show you what I mean. So I'm making a little stick man because the subject is the owner, the subject of the question. What conclusion can I draw about this person in scene 1? So I have a red box in scene 1. And so if you notice, if you go to the Dollar Tree, you can find these little boxes for $1 where you can put any kind of candy inside. I think the best ones are Smarties. So if the scene 1 is the shirt, then scene 2 could be the green pants. And then the cool thing about the little boxes, there's also a blue box and a yellow box, and they cost 100 in cash, 100 cents. Well, Dollar Tree went up to $1.25. So you could cover up to 4 scenes. So if we can figure out just from reading scene 1, what we can conclude about the owner, is the dog lazy? All right. I'm going to circle that because, oh, I broke my pencil. Got another blue one handy. Opinion. If the dog, the subject, is lazy, according to the owner, he is disapproving of dog's laziness. So the subject, object. If he feels disapproving is having a negative emotion, so I could draw a heart right there. And let's see, by the time we're done, does he feel like the dog is lazy? A negative opinion and emotion, disapproving. He is frustrated. Another negative emotion. That he is too tired, an emotion, to finish reading his book. So if the focus was his exhaustion and frustration from not being able to read his book because of being too tired, then we would draw that conclusion. He is unaware. Okay, that's a neutral, not positive or negative. Unaware means he doesn't know something. Okay, we don't know which way to go. So unaware is something that I would probably call not thinking. Okay. So inside my head are opinions and thoughts. I'm not aware, I'm not thinking of the way that dog feels about our relationship or their relationship since we're the reader. Okay. A relationship, uh, feelings, that's telling me. So we should see if there's something about the relationship between the dog. So if you look at A and C, they focus on a negative opinion about the dog, and C being a neutral opinion about the dog, unaware, not knowing. Letter D, he is annoyed. So what the test people are trying to figure out is, are students able to determine the voice through vocabulary of your students? Your voice is inside your head in terms of thoughts and opinions of the owner, or feelings and emotions. Okay. So if I write thoughts, just the T, opinions, that's my voice inside my head. If I write E for emotions and feelings, that's my voice inside my heart. And because this play is a scene in the form of a story where it's nothing but people saying things, a person saying things, and we'll find out in scene 2 that the dog starts to talk too. So uh, animal fantasy, dogs speaking. So sometimes your voice comes out by what you say and how you say it. And there's sometimes from the stage directions itself. And so your voice, think of that saying toes. Don't judge a person till you've walked a mile in his shoes. I've said this times before for those of you that are followers of me for a long time, because inside his shoes are his toes, his voice, the spice of the writing, the what really shows who a person is. And if you need that when you write an expository or persuasive essay for ninth and 10th grade, I apologize that I haven't been able to do some videos for a few days. I've just been getting ready for high school training I'm doing next week, and another elementary training I'm getting ready for uh, around Texas. But I'm back, so here we go. Thank you for taking the time. So what we'll do is, as we read each scene from, sorry, each line from our red box that we'll call the shirt, we'll put a little Smarty in. So we have our characters, capital A, capital dog, singular, apostrophe S, capital life. So the focus is about the dog. And so I'm already going to try and infer, since one of those letters, letter H, sorry, looking at the wrong question. One of those letters, B, has nothing to do with the dog at all. I don't think that they would probably have a question that has nothing to do with one of the main characters in the story, the dog. Just my opinion, but you can have yours and I'll have mine. All right. So what did we say? a bracket, stage, directions, words, and actions. Let's see. In a living room, the where, a lamp and a textbook, what, sit on a table, where, next to a recliner, where. So you can imagine it's basically painting a visual for the reader. All right. So there's one Smartie. A dog who or what? Let me get my Smarties a little closer for you. A dog who bed, oh, a dog bed, a what is in the corner. Okay. So what they're doing is the same thing they do in a movie is basically establishing the setting. In the beginning of a movie, the camera is moving and letting you get a sense of the where, sometimes the when by what the characters are wearing, and you get a picture of usually who the main characters are because they show up pretty early in a movie. All right. Owner who enters what with dog who on a leash what. Okay. Action. So all of that, whoops, I should only have had two there because there was only oh, three sentences for three Smarties. All right. Line 2, owner. Sit. Stage, direction, dog sits, action. Good boy. Stage, directions from the leash, action. That was a good walk, short and sweet. Now back to work. 15 more pages to read in my history book, and I haven't even started my math homework yet. Okay. Good work, good boy. Doesn't sound like he's too upset with the dog. Okay. Sit. Good boy. Positive. That was a good walk. Positive. I don't like the repetition. Short and sweet. Positive opinion. Back to work. Stage. Directions. Dog. Stares at owner. That's all we know about the dog so far, is that he's looking at the owner in a staring manner. Action. 15 more pages to read in my history book. Coordinating conjunction, comma, and fanboy. I haven't even started my math homework yet. Stage, sorry. If you want to talk to the students about a coordinating conjunction when you join two independent clauses with a comma and a coordinating conjunction, then you could give an extra little Smartie. So all this, all right. Stage, directions. Owner sits in recliner. What? Action. Reclines. Action. Picks up book and reads. Comma in a series for those of you that are needing to teach capitalization, punctuation, period, stop sign. Captain owner glances over. Over at what or who? The dog. Dog is still scrutinizing him. Apparently, still scrutinizing must mean staring, because it already told me in the last, some earlier stage directions. I think it was the previous one. Yes. That the dog is just staring at the owner, like I'm staring at you. In, sorry, scene 4. Stage, sorry, scene 4. Line 4. Remember, a line can be as long as it takes until the stage direction, or the Actor, this the person whose turn it is to do the line is done talking. Stage, directions in an exaggerated way. Action. What are you looking at? They tell me how to say that. Huh? A little bit confused. Want to know what I'm reading? It's history. Do a teachable moment for those of you who have problems with it's. It, apostrophe, put an apostrophe up there to slow down the word. Apostrophe S. It is. Separating it from is. It's history. Stage, directions, dog, cocks head. Hmm? I make that noise because my dog does that every time he cocks his head. Action. Oh, what do you care? And the stage directions. You have no idea how good you've got it. So he's trying to assume that the dog is not appreciative, I guess. Saying, if I was to say to somebody, you have no idea how good you got it, if you have a child just staring at you like that, I'm not sure what would make him say that because the dog hasn't done anything but look at him. All right. Which leads us to be able to get the right answer in a moment. Can't remember if I put it or not. We'll get an extra one. Line 5, stage, directions. Owner tries to read, but is distracted by dog staring. Owner gets up, action. Common series, whistles, and leads, comma, and leads dog to the bed. So common series, 3, the owner gets up, comma, the owner gets up, comma, whistles, comma, and leads dog to the bed. So you got the owner doing 3 things, then you would typically put 2 commas, what they call here the Oxford comma. Okay. Line 6. Sit. Don't forget, the reason I have the red box is because my red box is all of scene 1 that they asked me about in question number 13. Okay. Stage, direction, dog obeys. So the kid who's playing the role of the dog will sit down, hopefully like a dog would. Action. Down. Of course. Stage, directions. Dog lies down. Action. Dog gets down. Stage, no more directions. Owner returns to recliner and continues reading. Whenever you have the owner doing 2 things joined by a fanboys, remind your kids that the subject is doing a compound predicate, returning to the recliner and continuing the reading. Okay, so the dog is over by his dog bed, lying down. He begins to fall asleep and then jerks his head up. So he begins to fall asleep and then jerks his head up Two things again joined by the conjunction and. Owner places his hand behind his ear and leans towards dog's bed. Three consecutive. Owner doing two things joined by the conjunction and. A loud snore is heard. So since it's only the owner and the dog, you can infer that the dog is snoring. Action. So of course you would want somebody, the dog or somebody who's good at making a snoring sound. You could have a little quick contest there. Life happens at full speed, but reading and writing happen in slow motion. So we're slowing life down line by line in this one scene because of the word arms. Actors, remember more story sequence. So all this is the sequence of this story, but more specifically, just one scene. All the lines in every single sentence inside the line is one of these little smarties. That dog has no idea how good he's got it. Not true. That's just his opinion. Stage, directions, yawning. Action. I'll take a little nap too. So we've got the yawning. He's tired. I'll take a little nap too. And stage, directions, owner pulls the lamp chain. Cut, because whenever you have the scene finishing, then you've got to say cut instead of action. So I move these to the side and let's see if we can, without having to look at what we'll call the pants, green, if we can figure out the answer. He is disapproving of dog's laziness. Nowhere in there is he feeling that the dog is lazy. He's the one that told the dog to go sit down because he was kind of bothered. But is he bothered? Is he frustrated by being tired? Being too tired to finish reading the book? No. There was just no frustration. He was just tired because he said he was tired. Doesn't vent or anything at the end of that scene. He was venting about the dog was the last little detail. If those were my toes, my last little toe or my last little lace on the shoes of that I wear over my toes would be me feeling like my dog doesn't or what is not doesn't know how good he's got it. All right, so that could be the answer. So he is unaware of how the dog feels about their relationship. Okay, means he doesn't know how the dog feels about their relationship. Well, if it's between not really knowing how the dog feels, well, he thinks his opinion is that he doesn't realize how good he's got it. So let's see if C is a better answer or D, because we've already decided that I'm not frustrated because I'm tired. I'm frustrated about my dog not realizing how good he's got it, but not because my dog's lazy. There is nothing there about laziness. He is annoyed that he has to walk dog instead of studying. At no time Did the details talk about walking the dog? But as you can see, each of A, B, and D were of a big enough distraction uh, that they were causing the student, after reading scene one, to pick lots of answers. So what I suggest that you do then, if you can't look at scene one and get your answer, then just read a couple of lines. If your students would have read just a little bit, would have fast forwarded the play to what I'm going to call the pants scene two. Scene two, my belt, green, and I'll just kind of read this time. You already got the concept of the acting and the stage directions. The sound of the dog's collar jingling and nails clicking across the floor is heard. So if the dog's collar is jingling and nails clicking across the floor, those are two. I plug in Mr. Potato Head's ear to hear the collar jingling, because what are you seeing or doing or hearing? Where are you? So we basically get to not see something like the last scene begins. We get to hear something, a sound. Dog barks, another sound. So three sounds to open up scene two. Owner, huh? Another bark. Roof. Owner turns on the light. Dog is reaching beside, dog is beside the recliner, where nudging owner's arm. What and who? What? What do you want? Arm, nudging his arm, and nudging. So with the nose, probably. Dog. Suddenly, animal fantasy. I want to know what you mean. Owner. Rubbing his eyes. What in the world? So if I were to continue on, the dog asks him, and I'm not going to keep going, but I just want you to realize that the dog wants to know what he means, that he has no idea how good he's got it. So by reading that part, just that far, is that more about the dog being lazy? Still no. Frustrated about the book? Definitely not. Unaware of how dog feels about the, what do you mean? I don't know how good. That could be it. Annoyed that he has to walk the dog instead of studying. At no point did he get upset about having to walk the dog, just probably annoyed that maybe the dog is spoiled or something, but nothing in there would have led. And it was interesting that that was the one that was chosen by the least amount of students. And so what I would be able to be aware of is, based on what the owner said, what owner said, you don't realize how good you have it. And are us reading just a little bit of the scene two, the what we'll call the pants, it's most likely that he's unaware, not just doesn't know how dog feels about the relationship. And as in most cases, a dog is man's best friend, and hopefully you'll get to read the rest of the play with your students. Um, this is kind of cool if you teach um, lower than sixth grade, which this is the release test from sixth grade from Texas, or if you teach in any other state that also teaches learning about plays, and you can use the release tests from lower grades In other words, if I'm a sixth grade teacher, I could not give my students this play. If I'm seventh, eighth, I couldn't give them this play. Um, I, I'm sorry, if I'm if I'm six or lower, I can't give them this play because it could be given as a release test. But if I'm seventh or higher, then I could use a play from a lower grade in Texas, or if you're from another state, anybody could use this play to kind of teach uh, characters the voice of the characters that's inside their head or inside their heart. Um, so I hope you liked the ideas that I shared with you uh, of thinking about a scene as a bunch of sentences, uh, each line as a bunch of smarty sentences, and I even broke down the sentences into dum-dums that I call details that I call sometimes dum-dums. If dum-dums are just the little details, all the little things that happen inside a smarty, a sentence, because we saw lots of coordinating conjunctions. We practiced commas in a series. We've got to practice capitalization. So basically, those are little TMIs, not teachable moments, not too much information, but teachable moments of instruction. If you want to take little bits of chances to practice capitalization, usage, punctuation, and spelling, because starting next year on the extended and essay responses from third through eighth grade, and for the April, June, and December test for ninth and 10th grade, you still have to teach expository and persuasive. And you're also your students are also accountable for learning plays because that is on the list of genres. So um, just something to think about. The other thing, just a quick summary, is whenever you talk about one time for sure, uh, your kids need to understand that the stage directions are just that. Basically, who does what, where, and when. You get to see something. And in some cases you get to hear something, like we saw in this play for scene 1 and scene 2. So remember, it's just the first bracket is the stage. The words are the directions, and the closing bracket is either the action or cut, one or the other. And then there's either some more directions, possibly if needed, or another character speaking, or sometimes, like in scene 1, the dog, because the owner doesn't even realize he speaks, the dog doesn't speak until scene 2. So it's either that the guy is just dreaming, or the dog actually does speak. And that's for you to find out if you read that play, sixth grade 2021 release test from the Star Resources release test. So please do me a favor and share this video with your reading teacher friends who are working on plays and trying to inference what a character thinks, feels, or believes inside a play or poem or a story. God bless and good night.